The August 3rd, 2015 meeting of the Union County Board of Commissioners, and I'd like to ask Vice Chair Rushing if he'd give the invocation, please.
Let us pray. Lord, we thank you for bringing us all here safely tonight, and we thank you for the weather that we've had and the rain that was much needed. We pray that you would be with us as we make decisions here for the people of Union County tonight, and pray that you would be with us as we go home. In your precious name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This evening, we'll get started. Commissioner Akmus had a personnel issue that he needed to address, and will be joining us a little later. So, item C. Ms. Manager, if you'd tell us a little something about this, we've got some celebration to do.
Yes, sir, we do. Jeff Yates, who is our Administrative Services Director and our Chief Financial Officer, was named CFO of the Year for mid-sized government agencies by the Charlotte Business Journal at its 7th annual CFO of the Year Award Luncheon, which was held on June 22nd, 2015. Awards were presented to finance professionals in the Charlotte area who exemplify excellence as corporate financial stewards in the following categories: public company, private company, small, nonprofit / government, and mid-sized to large nonprofit government. Mr. Yates, as you all are aware, has been with us since September of 2012, and he manages our accounting, budgeting, procurement, information technology, and debt management programs. And we would just like to congratulate Jeff.
It's with great pleasure that we present this.
It was July.
This seems to be habit forming. You've done quite a bit, but quite an accomplishment and recognition for his excellent work, and we appreciate what you do. Thank you very much. Appreciate it very much. Thank you, Pam. Next, we have our informal comments, and each speaker must address the board from the lectern and begin with their remarks by giving their name, stating whether they are a resident of Union County, indicating the municipality within which they reside, if any, and stating the topic about which they intend to speak. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to make remarks. A speaker may not yield any of his or her time to another speaker. Speakers may not discuss matters of which are subject of public hearing and must be courteous in their language and presentation. We have one person signed up to speak, and it's Miss Nancy Anderson.
Nancy Anderson, Weddington, Union County. After 61 years of service to the citizens of Union County, Providence Volunteer Fire Department closed its doors for the final time on Tuesday, July 28, 2015. They served with honor and distinction this county long before Weddington was even a town. Over 150 people from across 2 counties came to bid them farewell and to express their gratitude for the service and a job well done. I was very disappointed to see that no one from this board was among them. You should have come on behalf of the citizens of Union County. Lastly, as you move forward to the countywide reorganization of the fire department, I hope that you can avoid the bitterness and animosity that developed between 2 fine fire departments who once worked side by side to protect and serve. Nobody wins and everybody loses. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Concludes our informal comments. Next, we have additions, deletions, and/or adoption of the agenda. Are there any items that need addressing?
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor?
Aye.
All against, none. Next, we have our consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve consent.
Yep. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, maybe we'll make that 8 o'clock, Jeff. Next to old business. Last year, we had considerable discussion on our emergency services, and we had a stakeholders group that presented some change. And actually, July the 1st was the first goal that we had for EMS. And we have a new director, Brian Edwards. And we do appreciate you coming and look forward to working with you. So if you or Alicia, we're going to give the presentation, give us an update. We wanted to put y'all early on the calendar so that you y'all can slip back out and take care of EMS things.
We appreciate that. We appreciate the opportunity to address you all. My name is Alicia Campbell. I'm the AVP of Operations for CHS Union, for those of you that may not know me. I have administrative responsibility for Union EMS on behalf of Carolina's healthcare system. I'm going to speak just to the key work that's been done to date, and then I will turn it over to Brian to really show you the data and the information and the accomplishments so far. I think it's important to note we started last fall with a working group. The great part about that working group is it's really helped us to build some collaboration in some key areas with our fire departments, as well as Curtis and the county staff, just building those conversations and working on that collaboration. And that started last fall, and from that you may remember the plan that was rolled out earlier this year. In January, we also hit another key milestone that was already being worked on. We completed the transition to 12-hour staffing. You may remember that started probably about 15 months prior to that time, but we completed that in January. And then in February, we developed what we call our daily dashboard, and those are the key metrics that we're looking at. It's important that we measure and continue to measure so that we know the improvements that we're making are having an impact upon things. Those daily dashboards are given to our supervisors with EMS, and then they're shared with the teams. We look at the exceptions that fall outside and work to improve our processes. And then we implemented also our monthly meetings with Curtis and the county leadership team, and we share with them the dashboard on a monthly basis, looking at the monthly numbers. Those meetings have been great, and I would say we've also expanded those meetings to include some CCOM personnel, which has been critical as we make the deployment changes. It's just another part of building the collaboration. And then, of course, in March, we began posting the FTEs to work towards the 1411 model, and we continue to work towards that and make progress in getting the staff hired on and trained that need to be in place in order for us to achieve 14 ambulances during the daylight hours and 11 during the nighttime hours. We did purchase the 2 ALS units that were budgeted, and those, I believe, as of last week, were just about ready to hit the road. There are some final things that need to take place there. Of course, a key milestone, one I'm especially excited for, is that Brian came on board at the end of June in July. Another key item that's not listed on here, but it is a metric that we have achieved. You may remember the discussion of having 11 ambulances during the day and 9 at night, and we've been able to achieve that at the 90th percentile. So that's another key milestone for us as a system. In July, we also eliminated the outbases, and then we implemented the change model that was developed during the working group that took place last year. Also, about 2 weeks ago, we implemented what we call staggered shifts, and that's a critical part of what we do, making sure that we're getting the ambulances staffed to the volume demand of the system. So our shifts aren't necessarily all happening, or the changes and happening all at the same time. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Brian, and he's going to talk through the metrics and the accomplishments from the actions we've done.
Good evening. Excited to be here. Thank you for your welcome. Thank you for all the support you've given us as well so far. Alicia made indication that there's a lot of data being collected. She is correct. One of the things we're doing is not only looking at this data, but trying to figure out where we're going to go with it, what this data will do to better improve the system and better improve our ability to deliver the care that we give. Trending since the start of the year, we have a model here in place for you to look at. There's 3 things that we are monitoring really heavily on a day-to-day basis. Now, there's a lot of information. There are a lot of data points that we are looking at every single day. These are 3 of the main data points that we've chose to initially look at and decide where to go with from there and where we feel we can receive the best benefit from. First one being the shoot time. Looking at the first of the year, how it was high and has generally and gradually decreased throughout the year. Also looking at the response times as well as the turn times, and this is the time the crews spend at the hospital. These are gradually headed downwards, and that's what we want. That's a good thing. Getting more people, more crews, more teammates back out to the patients we need to get the care to is what we're aiming for. This is one of the goals we're striving for daily. With that being said, looking at it a little bit different, painting the picture is one thing, but letting you have a visual of it gives you another idea of what we're actually monitoring. If you look at the top row, that is this period last year, Q1 and Q2 of last year. You can see our shoot time, and when I say shoot time, what I'm referring to is the time it takes the truck to start responding from the time they receive the call. That was averaging right around 120 seconds. The second row of information we were looking at, we see that has cut in half, so that is a big turnaround there. Our response times has gone down as well. That's something we're continually keeping our eyes on, continually monitoring. I want to continually improve that also. And also looking at the time the crews are spent in the hospitals, turning over patients to the staff. That is headed in the right direction, but we still feel there's some area for improvement there. Working on that, working with the teammates on a continual basis. This gives you an indication of what the call response was like a year ago, and there again, this was from January 1st until basically right around July 1 of this year. The red indicates any time that it took a crew to respond, took them to respond greater than the 14 minutes and 29 seconds we were aiming for. We see a lot of the pockets of red in this area down around the Weddington, Waxhaw, the New Salem area, Lanes Creek, Sandy Ridge. Now, this year, for this past month after the change, July 1st, we see a dramatic decrease in that. That is our goal, ultimate goal, getting this down even farther, that we see a large reduction of this as it stands. Next steps, we would like to, or we will continue hiring and complete the goals, which is the personnel to fill the 14 and 11 model that we set forth. Continue developing processes addressing the best practice for Union County. Designing an EMS system is one thing, that's pretty textbook, but our goal is to design a EMS system that best suits the citizens of Union County. Finalize the implementation of the 14 day trucks and the 11 nighttime trucks as well. And also, as I stated earlier, continually analyze and look at the data that we're getting on a day-to-day basis. We're getting a lot of data now. This will guide us in the direction that we need to go to make these decisions, to make the best decisions that we can possibly make. Also identify further opportunities to improve the citizen. That itself gets back into the data also. And one last point that I don't have on here is fully implementing the technology piece that was recommended by the work group itself. Presentation. Any questions?
No, I want to make a comment. I mean, you know, your shoot times are down to 61. That was a long-term goal that you've made significant progress at, and you're to be commended on that. I think I told you earlier, I went down to my farm this weekend, and all this started back at Lanes Creek about 2.5 years ago. And I'm going down there, and there sits an ALS unit right there at that station just before you get to Lanes Creek. And I circled back through Wadesboro and came back and saw a couple more units out in the county. It's very reassuring to see the progress we've made in the short time that Alicia and you have facilitated. And I thank you for it, and we're looking forward to future progress as well. And welcome back to Union County, because I think you were here at one time yourself, part of the EMS group.
Yes, sir. First half of my career was spent here. Yes.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Very glad to be back. Thank you for the support. Thank CHS for the support. Everybody that's been involved in this, they have set it up. They have really set this up for a success story. I think the communications that are ongoing, the working relationships that have been developed are something to be commended among all parties. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Next, we have item 6, which is the employee survey update. Ms. Manager, if you'd like to.
Yes, as the board is aware, one of the objectives that you all approved earlier this year was to conduct a employee survey. At that point in time, we were going out with a request for proposal. We were fortunate enough to discover Workplace Dynamics, actually through an advertisement in the Charlotte Observer. And they do surveys throughout the nation, so we retained their services. And Tom Devane with Workplace Dynamics is here with you all this evening to provide you an update as to where we are on the employee survey.
Good evening, all.
Welcome, Tom.
Thanks for the opportunity to address you, and also thank you for the opportunity to serve Union County with the survey. So what I'd like to do is just go through some of the highlights of what we found in the survey. First, a little bit of the background of Workplace Dynamics. We actually partner with 43 newspapers across the United States, and this is the Top Workplaces program every year. So we collect a lot of data that we actually have the ability to interpret and act upon. Every year, we do actually over 7,500 organizations, and we survey over 2 million people. So that gives us a rich database from which to actually be able to make interpretations. Our principal lines of business at Workplace Dynamics are, first of all, is the survey. Next, we do consulting work that actually helps organizations in the survey who actually would like to get better at what they've uncovered. And finally, we have an online tool that we actually help with organizational feedback. What we really focus on is we focus on the areas of employee engagement. We focus on organizational health and shaping culture. So organizational health is something that actually has become quite popular in the last 3 or 4 years as what people consider to be a sustainable competitive advantage as you go forward for the long term. If anyone here remembers some of the old book called In Search of Excellence, Tom Peters and Waterman, they ex-McKinsey folks, they actually did a survey, and they came up with the companies they thought were the best companies in the world. And what we found is years later now, only 30% of those companies are still thriving. 30% are in trouble, and about 30% are just kind of muddling along. And so what happens is we say in the retrospective, when we take a look back on organizational health, it's really the organizational health. It's the culture that gives people the sustainable advantage to go forward in a competitive way. So that will enable you to serve your county folks much better. So let's take a look at the engagement survey facts. You had a fantastic response rate. 72% is our average, and you had 78%, which is a very good response rate. We also got some good comments. We had 1,200 comments from the survey. We benchmarked you against local government. Benchmark is very key because if someone says on a survey, slightly agree, we don't know if that's good or bad. So we take a look and we compare that to other similar government-sized agencies. So that is your benchmark. 5 of the 11 organizations in the benchmark were named as top workplaces. So it's important to point out, you're really benchmarked not against average government workplaces. You're benchmarked against the ones who are aspiring to be in the top, and actually quite a few of them were in the top in your benchmark. What do we measure? We measure 2 broad categories of factors. Now, factors are really consolidations of questions. The first one is organizational health, and I've talked about what organizational health is. These are the factors that enable you long-term to actually sustain the growth that you have, sustain what you're doing, and help serve the public. So when we take a look at organizational health, there are 3 major factors. One is alignment, which is how are we aligned with the organization? Is everybody pulling in the same direction? This is a key thing, is if this is not going on, that's gonna be a problem down the road. Another one is execution. Is there a culture of execution? Do people feel like they're really trying to get quality work? They want to get it done. They want to serve the population. Execution is key. The final one is connection. Connection is the ability of the employee to say, I feel connected to Union County. And even better, I feel connected beyond Union County to some greater good that I'm helping out in the world. So this connection factor is also very important, especially as we look at some of the demographics of the millennials coming in. The second set of factors is called my job. 3 factors here. One is my work, which is how are things going as far as do I have the resources that I need? Do I feel like my work is something I'm appreciated for? We've got my manager, which is my manager helping me to do my job. There's my manager actually getting in the way. And then finally, my pay and benefits. So when we take a look at these, the org health and the my job factors, org health end up being the more important in the long run, because when we do correlation analyses, you see these are more closely correlated to the top performing workplaces over time. So what I wanted to do is take a quick look here at what the Union County environment is, take a look at the findings, and then take a look at, show you what the high leverage areas were that we had identified, and talk about next steps. Executive summary, there is good news in the survey. The My Manager scores, which were essentially those scores that say, how is the respondent actually interacting with their manager? The My Manager scores were above the industry benchmark, which is very good news, indicating that the manager training that has been going on is paying off. There are some strengths to build on. First, there are strong managers across the organization. Employees are actually getting the formal training they need based on the question we asked about formal training. Now, every company, every organization has some kind of challenges also. Here are some of the greatest challenges that popped up here. There's growing engagement in employees is going to be important who feel that they are currently under-resourced. So we've got this loud and clear from both the data, and we also, in addition to collecting the data on the scale, we also collect comments. Both the data and the comments told us this. Also, building confidence in top leadership and the direction of Union County. There were some comments and there was some data that suggested that there needs to be a little bit better alignment and direction of Union County. So those are the greatest challenges. Now, next steps. First next step is opening up the lines of communication, sharing the survey results with employees. Next is intervening with low-scoring departments. And finally, talking about the senior managers need to address the issues identified for the senior leadership team. There are certain issues that pop up in the survey that can be handled at the department level. There are other issues that cannot be handled at the department level and need to be escalated to the senior leadership level. And so we identify and triage those. Let's talk about some of the findings now. So, key findings. Key findings are divided into 2 areas. One is strengths, and the second is opportunities. This page is the strengths page. Our key is if we have a star, a nice little purple star, that means exceptional. Green circle is healthy, yellow is caution, and red is at risk. So the strengths, first of all, strong managers is the strength. My manager statements were all above industry benchmark for all groups and also in the aggregate, which is great news. Second was their ample training is going on. Employees are getting the formal training they want. And so this is something that is very important. 6 departments were significantly above the industry benchmark. So new employees were also well above the benchmark, suggesting that there is some good onboarding that's going on right now. Last strength that we found is meaningful jobs. And this, keep in mind, this is benchmarked against other government agencies. So while government agencies tend to outperform corporations for meaningful jobs, you actually outperformed other government agencies. 74% of employees agree that their job makes them feel like they're part of something meaningful. The scores are stronger in employees with less than 10 years of tenure is what we found. The data can be sliced and looked at a lot of different ways, and that's one of the things that we found. Now let's take a look at, those are the strengths. Let's take a look into the opportunities. Opportunities is, first of all, there are pockets of negativity that showed up on the survey. Obviously, these can adversely impact the ability to provide quality services to Union County as it's growing, and also the internal transformation efforts that are going on. Top alignment. Lack of top alignment in direction and values is perceived by some selected groups as being less than it needs to be, and this is out of alignment. What we find in organizations is that this is a huge challenge to any kind of transformation effort you're trying to run internally. Next then is low engagement and disconnection from top management. is this obviously causes some transformation stagnation, and we directly measure engagement on the survey. Engagement becomes very powerful because engagement is really the next frontier from simple communication. We used to think that if we communicate the strategy and communicate what's going on, that gets us where we need to be. Now we're finding that employees want to be engaged. They want their voice heard. They want to make sure that they feel respected. And to the extent that we can create those conditions, we get a whole lot more out of the workforce and provide a whole lot more to the community. Last one then is the concerns around efficiency, is increased accountability and structure. So these are things like processes, policies, procedures. These have been implemented, and it's a catch-22, is you implement those to try to protect what's going on inside the organization and the employee. However, when you start to implement those, people also feel like it's more bureaucratic environment. And so it's a catch-22, is how do you implement those well so that you achieve the protections you want, but also people feel they have not been tied up in some sort of bureaucratic red tape. Big challenge. This came through loud and clear, is concerns about efficiency. Those are the key findings and opportunities. What we move on to now is coming way back up, helicoptering up from the tree level. We've talked about the strengths, we've talked about the opportunities at the data level. Now let's talk about what the high leverage areas are, because the high leverage areas are the things that really we want to take a look at. First high leverage area is the area of senior manager alignment and communication on direction and values. Is that this came through clearly that people want more communication on what's going on, and a little bit of idea that the senior managers seem to be more in line. Special attention has to be made to manager interactions with direct reports. Some of the comments that came back in the report said that we really need to focus on that manager interaction with direct reports. Next, efficiency improvements. We talked as we had a data point about efficiency, and here we take a look at efficiency connected to other factors. Efficiency improvements really are necessary to meet the increased workload because the employee population is growing, as you know, much faster than the county needs are growing much faster than the employee population. Last then, negativity and low engagement pockets need to be addressed. These came through loud and clear in the survey. We can pinpoint what we need to do. We can actually start a plan, and those actually have been started already, which gets us into our next slide. So next steps. So the county manager actually has meetings with all employees beginning the week of August 10th. As we go through our systematic methodology of how we roll this out, this is one of the first important things we need to do, is make sure we've got that one-on-one meeting with the employees, let the managers know what's going on, let the employees know what's going on. Employees need to know two things. Employees want to know my voice was heard, and employees want to know what are you going to do with the data. And that plan is already in place for next week. Top management alignment. There's already a work session that's starting tomorrow with all the division directors. So I must say, as for other government organizations I've worked with, this is one of the quicker ones that I've found. Often these things take about a month or two to get in place. And we gave the survey results a few weeks ago, and already now they've got the meeting scheduled for tomorrow for division directors. Finally then, is things we call a solutions forum. Solution forum is something where employees get to have their voice. Employees, again, the confidentiality is guaranteed, so they feel free to speak up. And solution forums are things where we ask them, what are the barriers that are getting in your way to doing the best job that you really could? From those barriers then, we actually take a look at some themes. We take those themes, and then those get translated to action plans. So those end up being the next steps that are the high leverage things going on. So let me just pause right there, and that's the end of the formal presentation. I'm certainly open for any questions you might have.
Gentlemen, any questions?
You mentioned the solutions forum. How is that conducted to ensure anonymity?
Couple ways to go in there. First of all, what we do is we actually organize all the people in the room into table groups. And so there might be 6 people at a table, and you can have up to 30 or 40 people. So automatically, nothing is attributed to one person. It's a table group. Second thing is we actually have then people draw pictures, and they draw pictures on the flip chart. This is kind of interesting because there's a lot of psychological research that goes on here that says that pictures actually tap into our emotions and what we perceive much better than words do. And so by drawing pictures, the employees actually get their thoughts out. And so Bob might draw a picture, and then they kind of put it up in the group. Say, well, like, what other things do you see in this picture? And they might come up with things that Bob didn't even know were in the picture. And so what we end up with at the end of this, everybody goes in and draws one picture. And we have then a flip chart that represents all the pictures from all the folks in the group. No picture is attributed to any person, and no person can be traced back to the picture. So that's the first thing that we do. Second thing that we do is then we come back, and if there's anything that seems to indicate if there was a particular department or so that was, I'm sorry, not a department, but an individual who was pointed out for something, is those results actually will be put off to the side in any report that goes up to the top. And so we have really two ways that we guarantee this. The first way is the way that it's designed. Second way is to say, hey, we promise if there's anything that pops up, and we say in the comments that, oh, manager so-and-so, you know, this was something that they had done last week. We scrub some of that stuff if it becomes attributable to the person.
And you had mentioned some issues that would be elevated beyond the department role.
Correct.
What issues what typical issues would be elevated?
Okay, great question. So one of the things that's, so a department issue might be an efficiency issue. We might have a different way to do a process locally. And people can say that, and the manager can go, great, we can do that immediately. Something that would be elevated would be something that might have to do with the culture or the values in the organization. If it turns out that there's some sort of intimidation or something going on in an organization, is those things cannot be handled typically at the department level. Those need to get raised up to the higher level.
Anyone else? I've had the opportunity to hear most of your presentations that you've been with us, and appreciate it. I will have to say that I was disappointed that, and we had this conversation, that the one-word chart was not included in this, because it was very self-explanatory. It was very striking at what our employees had to say. Can I safely assume that those one-word charts will be covered with our directors and all of our employees?
They will absolutely be covered with the directors and all the employees, yes.
Because what I noticed is, you know, we've had conversations about some departments didn't do as well as others. But the comments, there was a lot of similarity across all departments on areas of satisfaction and dissatisfaction, and we need to address that. But,
Yeah, those will be addressed in detail in each one of the sessions. Yes, be rest assured.
anything else?
One other question. You mentioned tenure affecting the results.
Correct.
How did that affect it? What was the difference between under 10 and over 10?
What happens is the under 10, because we ask the question, how long have you been at the organization, we can actually get a nice little slice of that. And there's probably about 10 things that pop out in the survey. One of them is they actually tended to be more positive about what was going on in the workplace and in the onboarding. So that was something that was initially more positive. What I can do is I can actually get more information for you and get that to you, Commissioner Simpson. Glad to do that.
Okay, thank you.
One other thing, Tom, we discussed this earlier, and there was some talk about throwing out the low
Correct.
numbers and throwing out the high, and that is a valuable tool in an organization that is totally under one manager. Our sheriff's department did exceptionally well, and they pulled the county up.
Correct.
And they aren't a part of the manager's preview. They're part of the county, but so if you want to capture the county, take sheriff's out and then look at all the other, and then, because some of your bar charts that I know you'll be sharing with the people too, I find those valuable tools as well.
Yeah, we've taken out the sheriff's department and kind of bracket it. So what we'll do is we'll just take out the sheriff's department and then actually get the rest of the organization. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, and just and see what it tells us.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Okay,
What else?
Commissioner Gresham.
Mr. Chairman. One thing, in discussions with the manager and staff, you know, through the reports that you've been giving us, you know, we see that there's challenges, and I'm glad to see that they are stepping up and going to start addressing those challenges with the department heads and getting that back out. And I think a lot of it, from just talking to employees with the county that I know personally, you know, a lot of the things just miscommunications, just feel divided from what's going on. Years ago, you know, it was easier to know what was going on because there was less people, but now the more people that you get, the harder it is to keep informed, and I think that's what a lot of them miss. I think the longer they've been here, it seems like they just wish that, you know, it could be like it used to be where they knew everything that was going on. And I do hope that, I do feel confident that the manager and her staff are going to go out and remedy some of the problems and work on that. And I appreciate your service. I think what you guys have done for us here has given us a good indicator of what we need to do to be better at what our responsibilities are.
Great. Thank
And
you.
I'll have to say, I like the manager's approach that she wants to do a sampling mid-year to see if we're making progress. So I think that's a good demonstration that there's genuine effort to listen to our employees and try to resolve issues that maybe they have concerns, but there's also the positive that we need to spread in the other departments as well.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
thank you for making that last statement. The thing that concerns me is my two colleagues prior have indicated a lot of negativity. And I just want to point out that this survey actually showed a lot of positives in this county. We have a lot of very satisfied employees. And to all of the employees, I appreciate the 78% that participated in this survey. But I certainly don't want to sell ourselves short, because from what I've heard in the discussions tonight we've got a lot of work to do. Well, I really don't think that we do. I think that we have made some great strides in the last 10 years in this county. I think our current manager and her staff, her direct reports, are doing an exceptional job, and I think that with some continued focus, we can continue to create a better environment for all of Union County employees. So I thank all the employees for the 78% that participated, and to the managers and her staff, I thank you for the great job that you're clearly doing.
Mr. Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Commissioner Akins, I apologize if you thought I was being negative. I promise you that I wasn't. We did get some very good comments out of this and great direction on how we just can be better. And you know, a lot of the comments that I read, people were very satisfied with what they were doing. Like you said, they feel like they're doing something meaningful, and just small pockets of places that we need to work on. And that's kind of what we figured the survey would come back with. And you know, we knew that there were some things that had been said, good and bad. And again, I apologize if it came across that way.
You don't need to apologize.
I think it's also important to note that in these solution forums and all of the things that the county manager has talked about going forward, is in each of the sessions, we talk about right up front what the strengths are of that organization, of that particular unit, and also of the organization in total. And so building on strengths, they say, is a much better way these days than actually focusing just on problems. So we try to reframe those things as opportunities, and that seems to make a huge difference as far as outcomes that persist.
So after you meet with the division directors and you do the presentation for them so they have a better understanding of the results of it, how do you go forward from that step to both Commissioner Akins' point and mine to address not only the issues but to build on those areas that really are performing quite well?
Well, what happens is we will get as part of that presentation tomorrow. So the presentation goes as far as the longer presentation, and then we actually get with the group and run something similar to solutions forum. So we go through and we talk about, you know, what the strengths are, we build on the strengths, and then we actually surface any issues from any particular division and surface those to the top, theme those, take a look and see what might need the uppermost level kind of intervention, and then what might be able to be the intervention of the division leaders, and then from there we have a clear-cut path about what we need to do going forward.
What kind of time frame are you looking at for next steps after this next meeting?
Usually you can do what we call an intervention, which is you can actually go through and do something that kicks off the change, and we can do all those the major ones by September. Now that's the initial intervention. After that, there's probably periodic things you want to be doing in October, December, November, December. But initially, it's important to very quickly do something. So by the end of September, we'll be looking at kind of completing all the things that need to go on for the first kickoff.
I think this is significant. I think one of your slides said it had been 19 years since we've had a survey.
Yes.
I'd like to think this is a baseline that we'll move forward in the future and build upon, because the feedback for our employees is extremely important, and we want them to understand that. And there's a lot of knowledge out there that we can glean from and assist this board to make good, solid decisions.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to serve. Thank you much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. I think next we need for you to explain the associated plan that's going
Okay.
along with this.
Well, as Tom indicated, we're hitting this from a number of different avenues. As he indicated, starting next week, I will be on roller skates, I guess is the best way to put it, because I'm meeting with each group of employees by division, usually a group no more than 25 or 30, sharing the survey results with them and starting the dialogue. That is part of what's happening, and that will be occurring through August and September. Just because of work that needs to continue going in that, we're having to split employee groups into a number of different groups so that they all can get the same message. Tom will be working with the executive directors and the division directors. That's a piece of it, as well as he mentioned also that we are going to be doing some triage in a couple of areas. And so he will be working with me on those that need more attention. We've also sat down with department directors where we have some, I guess, pockets of issues. And one of the examples he used, one was negativity. And those are some that Mark and I will be working on with those specific departments and saying, okay, what are the issues? How do we resolve them? So it's a multi-pronged approach depending upon what the issues are. And we have some departments that, although we will be communicating with them and sharing the results and seeking their input, that I will tell you based upon their scores, they had no issues that they brought forward as concerns. So it's really dependent upon the results that we heard, the issues that we heard, and trying to address each of them globally as well as specifically to what we've received.
Well, I know that Tom and I spoke earlier, and I agree that some of the departments came back stronger than others. But if you delve into the comments, you'll see there's some commonality even in those departments. So I think it would be poor judgment to just glance over the ones that gave us the higher ranking. We need to understand them just as well. And I look forward to all our employees having an opportunity to continue to help us grow, because Frank, I agree, we have a lot of positive. So I'm looking forward to it. And I think you've got an action here you need us to approve.
Yes, sir.
You want to tell us more about that?
First, obviously, receive the report from Mr. Devane, which you have done. We are then, the action plan that I have laid out, and really the initial steps, as Tom indicated, are through the month of October. As I indicated in the write-up that in the agenda abstract, is that I would like for us to do at about 6 months what they call a pulse survey, which will give us an opportunity after we have met with all employees and we've taken all the necessary steps. Are there things we need to tweak? Are there things we need to do differently? That some of our initiatives have not been as successful as we had hoped they would be. I am requesting that Tom be retained on staff to work with some of our more complex issues. We have, it is within my signatory authority, but since this is a sole source, I'm making the board aware of that, and based upon his and my discussions of the work to be done, it's approximately $60,000 plus travel expenses. And a lot of it he'll be doing over the phone versus traveling down, but some he will need to be physically here. which is why we are having the session tomorrow, because we knew he was going to be here this evening, so we're taking advantage of that travel having occurred. So we set up relatively quickly the session with the division directors.
Well, I think it's a very important issue, and I'll tell you I support it. But I would ask that that the managers, as Tom's working with the department, that the managers work alongside of him instead of him doing it for the managers, because that makes, you have to have that closeness, you have to have that understanding on both sides, management and employees. And that open dialogue can do nothing but help.
And that's the intent.
Okay. Then I'll make a motion that we accept the associated plan as described by the manager and authorize county manager to approve the agreement with Workplace Dynamics pending legal review. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? None. Okay. Next, item 7, volunteer fire department reporting process.
I believe Mr. Teague is going to give you an update on this. Chairman, I know this is an item that you had requested
Yes.
that we provide you an update.
And Curtis, before you get started, let me give you a little background of why I'm asking the question.
That's okay, I'm just gonna set up my PowerPoint.
Oh, that's fine. I got contacted by a television station wanting to know why we had X number of stations that were on probation, volunteer fire departments that were on probation. And actually, I was excited to go talk to them because I think we've done a lot. Mr. Teague is one example. We have a new emergency services director. We've got a new fire marshal. We funded staff that was identified need on a couple of departments. And I know the chairman of the fire commission went out and worked with the departments that had some processes, and I think it was more certification processes that were lacking. And I think our last department will come off in September, is what I was told. So I think we've got a good story. We're moving forward. But, and Curtis has heard me say this before, I teach a process of management called management inspecting what you expect. And so I've asked that Curtis come give us some background on our processes, because there's a fire resolution that sets out what we're supposed to be doing between our fire departments and the county. And we need to make sure we track to that. And I've said enough, Curtis.
One second. I've got a copy of this memorandum for each of you. And basically, we're going to start off talking a little bit about fire department reporting, which was an issue last year. And originally, what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about that and part of the issues that came up right after I started last year in trying to establish baselines and look at data. Quite honestly, I was surprised whenever I asked simple questions that there was no way to come up with answers as far as general information like the number of calls that were ran by a particular type within the county. There was not a way to easily come up with the number of inspections that were done by the staff. Just about any category that you tried to pull information from a database, it was non-existent. And I'm kind of giving you the Cliff Note versions instead of reading to you, because I don't want to insult anybody's intelligence by reading. Basically, what I ran into was a situation where fire departments, some were reporting, some may not have been reporting like they should have been in a timely manner to the state. What was sort of unusual here is some departments reported on their own to the state, and that was done by approximately a third of the departments in the county. Whenever a department reports directly to the state without going through the fire marshal's office, we have no way of knowing what the actual data is representative of their calls for the year. So we're for lack of a better term, out of the loop. Whenever incident reporting was first designed and required in North Carolina, the intent was for it to go through the county fire marshal's office. That was to ensure that the information got to the state and that it got to the state in a timely manner. So that was one of the issues that we looked at in 2014. And at that point, we began to do research on a solution. As we were working through our solution, we also found that the reporting system that the majority of the departments in the county were using, which is actually the system that had been provided by the county, was creating problems. There were problems with departments having access to the server that the county maintained. There was a lot of frustration on the part of the fire departments using that software. And also from our operations through the fire marshal's office, there was very little benefit to the information that was held in that program. So from that point of view, we knew that we had to come up with a different solution. As we continued to look through the incident reporting for the year, we continued to see problems. Whenever the state came in and did the 9S inspections last year, they established that some of the departments were having problems with their reporting. Basically, at the end of the year, North Carolina comes up with a report from the Office of State Fire Marshal that says these are the incidents that have been reported for each department in the county. And there were some zeros. That also came to light in the 9S inspection. And some departments were given notice that they had to become compliant. So we had those problems. So even now, we seem to be having a little bit of difficulty in getting departments to report in a timely manner. I also have Kevin Rigoli, the fire marshal, here to talk a little bit, if needed, about those situations that we have ongoing with the state. In July of 2015, actually last week, the state sent us the summary, I think it was the beginning of last week, on the departments and their reporting process this year. And at that particular point, Beaver Lane and Stallings did not have reports in the system at the state level. So this is something that is having to be checked into at this point. Again, we still are operating under the old software, so we don't know what the numbers are. That will take a little bit of time. Another thing that has changed in incident reporting from the state level over the last year is at one time the state had stated that they would really like to get the incident reports submitted to them quarterly. Some departments in the state actually submitted once a year. And the state's contention was, if you only send in your reports once a year, we can't help identify problems. So the state requested that they be sent in quarterly. A couple of months ago, or maybe 3 months ago, the state came back and they informed us that they would like to have the incident reports submitted to the state on a monthly basis. So that is something that we are trying to work on at this time. Additionally, and this is at the bottom and it's under a note in the first section of the document that I gave you, just above where it says Record Management System Implementation. Many of the departments in the county do not enter incident reports into the system that they have, whichever system they're on right now, immediately after the situation is completed. Some of the departments place them in a box or whatever their method is within that department, and the information is there, and then it has to be entered by an administrative person at the department. That sometimes also creates a little bit of difficulty whenever you have people that have had property damaged and they need a report as quickly as possible so that they can file it with their insurance company, things of that nature. So that is another reason why part of the reports at times are delayed That's just for general information, and that's the way that part of the departments in the county currently operate. So that is sort of a very quick snapshot of where we are right now. And that's looking at the old reporting system and the difficulty that we've had with the state. Would you like to ask any questions about that particular subject first before we go on to the records management system?
Mr. Rish.
So you're telling me, like, in these two departments that for the month of July, if my house burned July 1st, I've not got a report to file my insurance with? Is that?
They may have a report at the fire department. That is possible.
So they may be providing it directly to the person?
Yes, they may have the ability to do that, and possibly for a house fire, they may have already produced the report. It may not have been sent to the state, it may not have been sent to us. But there may be a little bit of a lag time. Some of the departments have somebody that comes in every few days and enters the reports that are in the basket, if you will. And other ones have varying timelines that they enter the reports. I think most will try for a structure fire to get the report done quicker because they know that the insurance company will be involved.
Are there any consequences from the state by not filing these reports in a timely manner?
If you do not file, let me start there. If you do not file, the biggest problem is they become ineligible for state grants, and they're also ineligible for a federal grant.
For what period of time? Just while those reports are?
It has to be submitted for the previous year whenever you fill out the grant.
Okay.
So the goal is to be as up to date as possible. And now with the state's request, they want information in their office up to the last month.
So with the example of Beaver Lane and Stallings, if they wanted to apply for a grant next year, they would have to ensure that everything they've missed so far this year and going forward is up to date, or they now as a penalty cannot apply for grants next year?
They would have to be up to date at the time that they apply.
Okay.
Because there is a question on the grant that asks if you are in compliance. And whenever the chief signs off on it, then he's attesting that they are compliant.
Curtis, I think you made a point earlier that they're supposed to report it in through our local fire marshal.
There is a
And-
general statute that exists that
Okay.
says it's to be reported through the fire marshal.
That's correct. So, and that's the reason I asked you to come tonight, because, I mean, I'm an old timer. I remember when we used paper, and I know there's paper available. So I really don't see any excuse if we don't have the technology or the knowledge in a particular department to fill that out, then they need to use paper. And I would ask that your department ensure that they do that in a timely fashion.
There's actually a section from the state with the Office of State Fire Marshal in their ratings bureau where they are saying that reports need to be electronic. And that has come about in the last couple of years.
Well, and
That's a transition on their part.
And I would expect that.
Yep.
The point is, what I'm asking you, your department, to ensure that whatever means that we have those reports on a monthly basis, and they know to expect to have them to you. If they set the expectation, or Mr. Brigoli's gonna go out and dance on the desk. You know,
That's what we're getting to
Okay,
when I go a little
great.
further down the sheet.
great,
Okay.
thank you.
Any other questions about the top part of the sheet? If not, we'll move down to the records management system. Basically, what we're doing is we're transitioning to a cloud-based system which takes away the difficulties with dealing with the server at the county. Also, I have Larry Brinker somewhere in the room. Oh, he moved on me. I have Larry Brinker in the room also. He and Kevin Rigoli, the fire marshal, as well as John Williams, all worked in concert on this RMS project. So they're here if you have any other additional questions as we go through. Basically, there was a request for a update and where we are right now as far as benchmarks that we're trying to obtain in going forward with the new reporting. We're scheduling an overview session sometime in early September. And the overview session will talk about the new system. We will involve all the users, which will be the fire departments as well as the individual divisions within emergency services for the county that will be using the system. We have modeled our system after Forsyth County, which has already been using the same software on a countywide basis for a few years. So we're going to bring in a representative from Forsyth County to talk about what they have learned, their successes, any difficulties they've had, things of that nature. And we're going to answer any basic questions that we have from the users. After that, our plan is to go forward and form user groups. Basically, there will be 3 users groups formed to assist in the rollout of the RMS. There will be an administrative group, which will consist of county staff, which will develop the overall administrative rules and rights for the program. There will be a chief officers group, which will be a group of chief officers from the various departments using the software who will be selected, and there will be, the selection will be based on different size departments to try to get the best input. And then we're also going to set up a users group that will be based on department coordinators. And the coordinators will be the people who will be responsible for maintaining their part of the RMS within the individual departments. And in the future, after we've done baseline training, we are hoping that these people will also be able to assist new members that come in the department in orienting them in the reporting software. We're looking to have the user groups formed by September 15th of this year. The next benchmark that we're looking to take care of is the policy and procedures for reporting criteria. As you know, we've had discussions before about different agencies classify certain incidents different ways. And what we're going to try to do is clean up part of that reporting. As we're rolling out a new RMS, we want to make sure we have the best data possible. So we're going to establish criteria to help people narrow down their selections, if you will, and try to have a apples to apples comparison of statistics later down the road. That work for that particular group should be finished by October 30th of this year. We're going to start working on database creation for incident reporting. This will run from September through December because there's a lot of data that has to be put in on the background of any reporting software that you're going to use. And one of the most important things everybody has to understand, the records management system is a true records management system. It's not only for incident reporting, which is our primary concern, but it will also give the ability to house occupancy records for the fire marshal's office. It will be able to provide a storage area for pre-planned incidents or pre-planned surveys that are done for occupancies within the county that fire departments will be able to pull up on tablets in the field, and they'll be able to look at the notes that have been entered by the inspectors and also floor plans that have been developed either by the local fire department or scanned plans that the inspectors have put into the system. So between that, training records for our own divisions, any training records that other users put in, they have the ability to run their inventory. They have a lot of different capabilities like this. So we're figuring that it will take roughly from September to mid-December to get all the database construction done. Now, with that said, if we're able in any part of this to move forward sooner, we will do that also. But this is our estimate and our timelines we've established. Fire inspection records transition to the records management system. We are also working to move the assistant fire marshals, the fire marshal staff to tablets rather than using paper, which should increase productivity, and we will have up-to-date information because the system is cloud-based. It'll be able to communicate. So if a fire department runs a call after an inspector has been there earlier in the day, that information should be immediately available if they've updated information as far as emergency contacts, things of that nature. It would be available for them. We're hoping to have the tablets in use by November 30th of this year. Training for the end users, and this is a two-pronged approach. One is training on the RMS itself. The other is training, kind of a background program to train everybody on the use of the INFR system, or the National Fire Incident Reporting System, just to kind of have a refresher course for a lot of people. And for some people, it may be the first time that the INFR's information has ever been presented to a large number of people. Because a lot of people have been in the fire service since it originated, but a lot of people have come along after. So trying to update that also. So we're wanting to have all the training completed by December 15th with a cutover date for the RMS incident data collection January 1st of 2016. Our goal there is to be able to start to have reliable information to where we can build a database, and we will have good information for analysis to be able to give to the members of the commission, as well as any other people within the county that need that information. It'll help us to make recommendations going into the future. Another part of the program that we are going to work on is integration of pre-plans into the tablets on fire apparatus. And this, we think, will be a little longer process because of having to prepare all the information, scan in plans, things of that nature, and have it available for units in the field. There's also departments that are going to tablets that are not currently using them, so it gives them a little bit of time to add their devices also. June 30th of 2016 is our estimated time for that particular rollout. That pretty much gives the update and the timelines for the rollout of the RMS.
Question?
Will any of the older data be brought into the new system, or are we having to build the database from scratch?
We're going to build the database from scratch for two reasons. One is, well, the biggest reason is we want it right, and we want to make sure that it is all data that will not have any overruns. In other words, we have found some situations where we may have numbering systems that cross over and may identify two different groups. We're trying to clean up all that information, and in order to have the best information going further for the database, we want to do everything from ground zero, if you will. We don't want to bring in bad information.
One question, you said Forsyth
Yes, sir.
uses this. How many other entities use this software in the state?
There are a lot. I can tell you that Durham County uses it. I can tell you that New Hanover County uses it. Forsyth County uses it. Cabarrus County uses it. I know those
Cloud-based?
right off the top of my head. Cabarrus is using cloud. Forsyth's using cloud. I do not remember on the
Okay.
other two.
And the reason I
To be
ask,
fair with you, I don't want to tell you incorrect information.
and the reason I ask is being a software manager in my history, I'm glad that you're got them coming in to work with you, because that's a good tool. So, I'd be interested to know how long it took them to get it up. Now, I know there are entities here that have been trying to get it up for 2 years and can't get it done.
Let me answer that.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I interrupt you?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The city of Monroe
Okay?
has been working for 2 years. They are working not on the cloud project. They're working on the next upgrade, if you will,
Net,
which is firehouse.net.
okay.
We're not pursuing firehouse.net right now.
Okay.
And the reason why we're not, originally, whenever we were first having a lot of the discussions and we were thinking about different versions, net, whenever it's finished, is probably going to be the absolute Cadillac, if you will, great program. And more than likely, if we have success here, we will probably transition to net once the bugs are worked out and once the beta testing is completely done. That is a product that's still in development. So I did not want us to move to net and be in the middle of a development process,
That's a good move.
okay? I would rather go with the cloud and make it more of a transition over to net whenever it's a proven product. So that's the thought process, and that is the reason why we're going this route. Monroe decided to go the net route. It's a little different.
Oh, I understand. I
That
didn't
makes
realize net and the cloud, because the net uses the cloud as well.
Yes, it does.
But I think they said Durham is the only one that's trying to use the net right now.
Durham tried the net, and they're still working with the net. They're actually using the legacy version.
And we've got some departments using Legacy right now.
We do.
Which are nothing but a local server based.
Local server base. What Durham did, and they actually told me a few months ago, if they had it to do over again, they probably would have went with the cloud, but they opted just to drop back to the legacy where they had been while the development's still going with the net. But they said they actually thought they probably should have went to the cloud.
Okay. That's helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
I just ask you to make sure the reporting's done while you're working out your software issues.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Trust me, we want it just as bad as you do.
Thank you, Curtis. I appreciate it. That was very informative.
Thank you.
Next, we have new business. Or, I'm sorry, are you through, Curtis, or? You want to talk some more? Okay.
Thank you.
Next, we have our legislative update.
As the board probably knows, our General Assembly is still in session. And Michelle Lancaster is going to give you just a brief overview of some of the issues that we've been monitoring and the status.
Thank you. As Cindy just mentioned, I'm going to be brief, but wanted to give you an update on where we are in the legislative session. It continues. They're still there. Working right now on a continuing resolution that is supposed to end at 11:59 p.m. August 14th. So that would mean that they would have to have a budget voted and approved by then before they could adjourn this session. It is not anticipated that that's going to happen, since that's 11 days from today. Based on the information that we have currently, it doesn't look like they're at a point where they will have the budget adopted. Some of the dates that we've heard floated around are Labor Day is kind of their next target point for being finished, and so we are all hopeful that will happen. Senate committees have stopped meeting, so it does kind of slow down some of the process. In Raleigh, the House still has committees meeting this week and may end this week, but they haven't made that definitive at this point. This is really a time in Raleigh where things get just a little crazy, frankly, because things are introduced on the floor from both the House and the Senate that haven't gone through committee, and they can catch everybody off guard, including us, including our lobbyists. And sometimes we benefit from things that they add, and sometimes we don't. One of the items that I would highlight for you that I shared with all of you last week is one where we did benefit from a Senate floor amendment to House Bill 561 that would put a moratorium on school board lawsuits against boards of county commissioners. This is something that I have personally talked to Senator Tucker about, and some of you I think have too, and thanked him for his work on this. This is something we were all surprised by. The State Association of County Commissioners was surprised by, but we're very supportive of.
And as Senator Tucker has characterized this bill as a cooling off period bill, I think that's really how we see it. It would have a 5-year moratorium on lawsuits. And it was scheduled on the House calendar tonight. And one of the things that we had been talking to Representative Arp about was including some language that would call for a legislative study committee, which is something that he's been very interested in. We agreed that that would be suitable for this type of bill. However, the House tonight voted not to concur with the Senate, and so now we go to conference committee. So that's just part of the process. We did get 2 Union County representatives on the conference committee. We got Representative Arp and Representative Brody, so I actually think that's very positive for us getting some things worked out in that conference committee going forward, and so I'll be keeping you up to date on that. So that's a bill that was something in our favor. There are a few others that have come out in the last couple of weeks that do have things that they catch us off guard, and we've just got staff scrambling trying to figure out what the implications are. There's a land development bill that went through with changes on the floor that we know will change our ordinance, but we're still working through what will these changes mean for Union County. And so you'll be hearing more about those in the coming weeks also. We continue to monitor and talk with legislative members about House Bill 168. This is the builder's inventory bill that we've talked about that would change how we're able to tax land that is built for improvements. We're also following the component of the Senate budget that would change sales tax redistribution. These are all wrapped up in budget discussions, so there's really no action until we see what's happening with the budget from both the Senate and the House. I want to thank all of you who have let me know when you've talked to delegation members about whatever the issue is. That really is helpful for me to know and pass along to our lobbyists about what the issues are and the conversations that are being had. And so whenever you have those conversations, it really helps us understand what's going on in Raleigh. And I'm happy to take any questions at this time about the process.
Any questions for Michelle?
You mentioned that the House did not vote to concur with the Senate. What was the local delegation's vote on that?
They voted to concur.
All of them?
Yeah, Representative Horn was not there. He is sick, and so he's actually not in Raleigh. But they did vote. Now, I wasn't surprised by the non-concurrence vote because this actually got attached to a bill that had nothing to do with school board lawsuits. And so I think the House member who was the original sponsor was a little leery about it getting to the Senate and kind of taking on a whole new life.
Fair enough.
But our representatives did vote to concur.
Any further questions? Michelle, I want to personally thank you. Michelle is very involved and communicates on a regular basis, and we're very appreciative of your skills and the talents you bring to Union County. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Next, we have item 9, and I'm going to read it a little differently than what you have on your agenda package. And it's amendment to the Fire Commission resolution to add a commissioner, I'm going to say liaison, as opposed to representative. One of the problems that we had in the past is there was concern the commissioner on it was the chair, and that seemed to create more problems than it did resolutions, and so I'll ask that we adopt a resolution to add a commissioner liaison to the Fire Commission. There's 7 members on the Fire Commission right now, and to add an 8th would create a voting dilemma potentially. So this is something that I've requested. Do we have any discussion? Commissioner Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple things, and I became familiar with the resolution as a part of the Blue Ribbon Committee or Special Committee that we're currently working on. I think liaisons are great. We have a number of advisory boards that numerous, or all of us here on the board sit on. And I think that's important in that it helps share the load. And it also keeps the communication lines open between that particular special interest or that particular organization or committee and the Board of County Commissioners. That being said, I think it's important that we we remember these folks in those advisory roles and allow them some time to work independently. And the good thing about advisory boards is it brings in a lot of expertise that we don't have on the board. So this would be consistent with the other boards that we have in terms of having a liaison. I guess my question, I'd like to ask a question with regard to would this be a amendment to the resolution, Jeff?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And this would be a non-voting?
I believe that we positioned it as a voting member. We can change that if that's your desire.
The other question I wanted to ask is, and this may be a question for you, Jeff, or maybe Ms. Cotto. There are a number of things, in my opinion, that the resolution addresses that we probably will address as a part of this committee and also as a part of the contracts that we come up with the volunteer fire departments. So I just wonder how that would tie in with the issue of the resolution going forward or the contractual relationships that we form.
Commissioner Simpson, you raise a good point. The resolution that you're referring to is quite old. It goes back to the early 80s, if not earlier.
97, last revised.
The last revised. Yeah, I think it may have been revised since then to take out the commissioner member. But yes, it needs some update. The county manager and I have had discussions with Mr. Teague about that, and I believe that he's going to be working on that. You're right, too, in that some of the terms of the old resolution actually comprised a contract that we would look to modify with the new VFD agreements as they're developed.
I would just say that the present resolution is probably very much like our present contracts with our VFDs. It is severely out of date and definitely has a number of areas that need to be addressed and bring us up to where we are presently.
So I would ask the question, Mr. Chair, I would assume that the Fire Commission would probably carry on after these contracts are completed in the future. Mr. Chairman, is this a voting position or ex officio?
My intention was not a voting position. You got, like I said, you got 7 members. And to add an 8th would create a potential block. I agree the resolution is old and needs to be updated. My understanding, it is the Fire Commission's responsibility to update that document. And I think we need to work with them to ensure we have a good working document that is consistent with what the stakeholder committees come out with the contracts and everything like that. I had conversation with one individual that said, the resolution's old and it really doesn't address it. I said, well, you have to understand, right now it's the law of the land. We need to follow the resolution as outlined, and then we need to make necessary changes once we are better prepared to do so. And clearly the stakeholder committee is key in getting to that point. Commissioner Rushing.
In years past, Jeff, and help me remember this, the way it worked was the commissioner was basically the chairman of the fire commission. So we had a fire commissioner, and I served in that one year, and it's a difficult position to be in, especially when we're working. We're voting here, and then voting there too. So yes, if it's a non-voting position, I could support that. I think it might be a good idea, and it would show the fire departments in this transition time that they've got an ear of somebody there listening and working with them. So yeah, I've got no problem with that. But I do like the fact that it's not a voting position, and it's definitely not chairing that commission.
Okay, any further discussion?
So do we need to amend the proposed amendment to the resolution?
Yeah, it should be adopt a resolution to add a commissioner liaison to the fire commission. And maybe we should state that it's a non-voting member.
Move that we amend the resolution to add a commissioner liaison as a non-voting member to the fire commission.
Okay. All in favor of the amendment? To amend the resolution?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Then we'll vote on adopt a resolution to add a commissioner liaison as a non-voting member to the fire commission. Any further discussion? All in favor?
What did we just vote on?
The amendment.
But
To
isn't
amend,
the amendment the
we
same thing
amended
as
the
a motion?
amendment, but, you know.
Sure
we-
sounded a lot like.
Well, yeah, I agree it did.
We had to amend the amendment.
Is that correct, Jeff?
I don't believe there was a motion on the floor, so
There were motions.
dispose of the matter by voting on it.
Yeah. So we have a motion on the floor to adopt a resolution to add a commissioner liaison as a non-voting member to the fire commission. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Okay. All right. Next, we move on to item 10, appointments to the boards and committee. Workforce Development Board, we have one vacancy representing the private sector. Union County has 4 members on a 24-member Central Iowa Workforce Development Board. The term of the member representing the private sector expired June 30th, 2015. That individual has asked not be reappointed. Central Iowa Workforce Development Board requests that Nancy Rutherford be appointed as a private sector representative of Union County. The vacancy has been advised. Mr. Rutherford has submitted an application to serve on the board.
Move to appoint Ms. Rutherford.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor of appointing Ms. Rutherford?
Aye.
Opposed, none. Cardinal Innovations Community Oversight Board. Background, the term of Lucy Drake, who serves as a family member, and the term of Treg Lindberg, who serves as a community representative on the Cardinal Innovations Community Oversight Board, will expire September 16th, 2015. These positions have been advertised, and Ms. Drake and Mr. Lindberg have applied for reappointment. No other applications have been received. Commissioner Rushing?
Motion to reappoint Lucy Drake and Trey Lindberg.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next, we have manager's comments.
I just have one comment, and that's to express my appreciation to Mr. Teague and Mr. Rigoli. I think through the presentation tonight, it became very obvious that with the addition of those 2 individuals to staff, they are going through and finding out things that had not been done in the past and are getting them resolved. So I'm very appreciative of that.
Commissioner Jerry Simpson?
Congratulations again to Jeff on his award. And Commissioner Rushing asked for, or gave thanks for a little bit of rain that's been scattered around, but I'll remind you that it hadn't been enough. And we're still moving headlong into a very serious drought. So I would ask that you please, if at all possible, conserve water every chance you get.
Commissioner Akins?
No comments.
Commissioner Lamb Simpson?
No comments.
Commissioner Rushing?
Jeff, I want to congratulate you on something beyond the new wall that we're going to have to probably do a budget amendment for to get all these awards on. I want to congratulate you on your great job you're doing with your daughter. I got to meet her this week, and Brian Matthews also that works for us, and a lot of kids from the 4-H came out and participated with us in some day camp activities, and you're doing a very good job as a parent, which that's one of the things that makes Union County great is we do have a lot of great parents out there with great kids, and thank you very much for what you've done with her.
And also, I'd like to congratulate Jeff on his accomplishments. But I'd also like to state that, on July 29th, Providence Fire Department posted its last call. This is a legacy of county servants that have served our county for over 60 years and provided outstanding fire service. Their dedication and service will always be appreciated and respected. And ladies and gentlemen of that department, thank you for your service and the dedication to the fire service in Union County. We greatly appreciate that. Additionally, I need to note that immediately following their last call, the Wesley Chapel team of firemen moved into the station. They did an outstanding job making a smooth transition. As a matter of fact, they were so efficient that in less than 12 hours, the state fire marshal came in and did an inspection, and they passed with no exceptions. That's correct, right? Okay. This allows the Weddington residents to maintain their low insurance rates, and I know that was a major concern. So I want to thank Chief McClendon and his team for the support of our community. And with that, I wish everyone a good night. Thank you.